This next high mileage Ram episode brought to you by Real Truck. If you don't mind, stick around to the end of the video. I've got some more information I want to share with you. Welcome back to Truck Central. I am Mr. Justin Wheeler, and this is the 2019 Ram 1500 Limited High Mileage Edition. Today we are coming to you with the 125,000 mile review, and I know, what took so long? Well, I took a vacation. But anyway, this isn't going to be a comprehensive truck review. This is going to be more of a high mileage update. If you've seen the other videos, you know I've already gone over all the good things, all the bad things, what's broken, and all that. So this video is more or less how's she holding up at 125, not how awesome is the air suspension, if you get what I mean. So most notably because it was not cheap, I finally had to get new tires on the old dusty Dodge. The Nitto Ridge Grapplers held up for 85,000 miles. Really pretty incredible and better than I had expected. They wore well, they wore nice and even. They handled the gravel and rocky roads I drive on all the time very well. Pulled trailers, no problem. So I was going to go back with that same tire, and I'm not going to get into this isn't going to be a tire video, but just real quick, get you up to speed. The supply chain production problems, it made it impossible for me to find a Ridge Grappler here locally, at least that lined up with my schedule. So I went ahead and took the opportunity to try out a tire I've never used before. So I went with the Toyo Open Country AT3. It's a very comparable tire. In fact, a lot of people compare the Ridge Grappler to the AT3s. Few small differences. The AT3 has the 3-peak snow rating, which doesn't really matter to me as much, but I will say the only time that I ever felt like my Ridge Grapplers were underperforming, the only times, was in snowy environments. So even though snow isn't something that I deal with very often, it's nice to have, and these tires were only, I say only, $1,700 mounted and installed, and that's a 305/45/22. The Ridge Grapplers that I had on before this cost me a little over $1,800, and that was last summer when prices probably were not quite as inflated as they are now. So that's good. In a previous video, I was bragging about the brake pads, and they're good. I've got 125,000. Actually, I'm at 127,000 miles right now, and I'm still on the factory pads. That's pretty impressive. So I know that the days are coming to an end, though. I'm getting a few squeaks here and there. They don't stop me quite as good as they used to. So before they become a problem, I'm going to go ahead and swap them out with an aftermarket pad. You might say, why don't you just put the stock pads back on? If the OEM pads last 125,000 miles, isn't that good enough? And the answer is yes, they are definitely good enough. But you don't really know how good something is until you compare it to something else. Kind of like the Ridge Grapplers. I love them, but hell, maybe I'll get 100,000 miles out of these AT3s. Who knows? Now, the next thing that I want to talk about, the most recent development, is the windshield. Now, I drive a lot, and it's not the fault of the vehicle or Ram itself, but I've had tons of rock chips, as you've seen in the other videos. But I also picked up a pretty gnarly crack right in my line of sight. So I don't know how expensive it's going to be. I'm going to call around this week and see how hard it's going to hit the pocketbook. Hopefully it's not crazy expensive. So we got new tires, new brakes are coming, new windshields on the way. Let's kind of talk about the stuff in the truck, the frills, the bells, the whistles that are still working flawlessly. Because if you're like me, when you go and you look at a new truck, you look at a full glass sunroof and an air ride suspension as a liability almost. It's like, when it breaks, how much is it going to cost me? It's not like a if it breaks, it's when it breaks. right? Because nothing lasts forever, and you have to be realistic. And I think that's part of the overall satisfaction with any vehicle, is if you kind of temper your expectations, then you don't become disappointed, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I expected things to fail on this truck, and I expected it to be things like the sunroof. You know, people they leak, they break, they stop working. I wear this sucker out, and it has still been perfect. The power steps, I dragged those suckers through the mud, dirt, sand, rocks, and they have been flawless. The touchscreen, this big, beautiful 12-inch touchscreen, which I bet is insanely expensive to replace, has been perfect. Every single button, it's never glitched, it's never flickered, it's never hesitated, no lag, nothing. And I mean, that's a testament to a new product in a 5th gen or a new generation of a vehicle, and to have no issues with it, I'm pretty happy about. Now, we do have the touchscreen protector. Nothing's ever hit this thing other than my fingers, so luckily it's cheap insurance, but I don't think that's aided the truck's performance or its reliability. So I just mentioned that because it's not completely stock, but I don't think the screen protector is what's keeping it working so well, because I take pretty good care of it. Speaking of the air ride earlier, the air ride, other than the issue we had last winter where it got really, really cold, like ridiculously cold for our region, the air ride has been 100% flawless. And all the lights, you know, the headlights, taillights, fog lights, this truck has got the bi-LED headlights that turn. That kind of stuff, you just hope it works, but you kind of expect little things like that to fail. I mean, think about it. How often do you drive down the road and you see a brand new Silverado with one headlight out? I don't get it. And I think it's gotten better recently, but there was a batch of those GM vehicles where it's like the headlights just 50-50 shot of whether or not you're gonna have to replace a light. And this truck, even through all the bumps and roads that I've gone down, nothing. And I've talked about this before, but this isn't a pavement princess. I take this truck down roads that make the moon look like the Autobahn, and I'm not kidding. If you've ever been to West Texas down a lease road, somebody back me up in the comments and explain how bad it is. And this thing just eats it up, spits it out. Eats it up, chews it up, and then spits it out. You know what I'm trying to say. So, very pleased. Couldn't be happier with the way everything's holding up. And we're at 125 plus thousand miles. Now, one thing, I do have a gripe. And I'm saving the gripe till the end because it's probably more me than the truck. But I'm starting to notice, and I'm going to sound like a little whiny you know what, but when you sit in this thing as much as I do, little subtle discomforts really start to become highlighted and exaggerated over time. And what I'm starting to notice is, and I didn't notice this at first, but where the center console comes across, it sits on that trans tunnel, and the trans tunnel is just a little bit too close to the gas pedal. And what that means is my knee and leg and foot are not in perfect alignment. My knee is actually rotated ever so slightly to get good boot to pedal contact with the accelerator. And after 10,000, 40,000, 100,000 miles, it wasn't really a problem, but I've actually started to notice a kind of a nagging pain in my right knee. I'll show you a view of what that looks like. So here's what I'm talking about. Here's looking down directly at the accelerator. You can see the trans tunnel here. Excuse me. This little bump is where my heel is pushed as far against this as possible, and my boot my boot heel comes up to about here, so if I don't angle my foot over like this, then I just don't get good comfortable contact with the pedal. So I would love it if this whole assembly was just shifted over just a little bit. And you can actually tell in my floor mat here, there's an indentation where I try to cram my foot over as far as I can, and it just ain't going nowhere. It's not the same in my wife's Explorer. When I drive her vehicle, I have absolutely no knee pain, and it's kind of a problem. And maybe it's because maybe I need a smaller foot. I'm not sure. If I could bring the pedals 3 inches over to the left, it would be perfect. But as it is right now, man, it's becoming a pain. And if it continues to get worse, the next 125,000 miles might not be as comfortable. And it's really quite a shame, because the truck rides so nice and so smooth, and it's so comfortable, and the seats have every, you know, control feature that you could think of. But the trans tunnel's in the way of my foot touching the accelerator. So I don't know if anybody else has experienced that. You know, it's probably specific just to me, or anybody 6 foot and above that's got a steel toe boot that they got to wear every day. So a little bit of a nag, but something really serious to consider and think about if you spend a lot of time driving like I do. Now what I'm really curious about is if the 3/4 tons and 1 tons have the same dimensions on the trans tunnel and its relative location to the accelerator. I'm probably going to look into that, because if there's more room in the 3/4 tons and up, then I don't think it's an issue, because most people don't drive these half tons like I do. And then finally, I wanted to kind of give you a real quick engine hours update. We are now at 3,756 total engine hours. That's 1,155 idling and 2,601 driving. So over 3,700 total operational hours on this Hemi motor, and she is still purring like a kitten. Now I think I've pretty much gone over everything that I can think of about this truck, with the exception of, I think I've got one more hacks, secrets, tips, and tricks video for this truck. It's interesting, even after being in this truck as long as I have, you still uncover some little nuggets every once in a while, and I got a few more for you. But if there's anything I haven't covered specifically that you want to know about, feel free to ask down below. You guys know that I look forward to talking to you in the comments. And with that, thanks for watching. Well, Justin from the future is back again. Once again, I wanted to thank realtruck.com for sponsoring these videos. Soon, maybe in the next few weeks, we'll see, we're going to do a follow-up on the intake and tuner that we installed, as well as the wheel spacers. And I'll let you know how I feel about those now after we've put some miles on them. If you want to see the install videos and the original impressions, we'll leave links to those as well as the products in the description. As always, thanks for watching.